Well, it's 7. Liz is going to join us a little later. She had a signing at 6. So she'll probably pop on a little bit later. But thank you, everyone, for joining us. This is EC Head Consulting Wednesday evening Notary Nuggets. And unfortunately, this is the last episode with Ray Pryor. I'm so sad. This month went by so fast, didn't it?
Man.
My goodness.
Man, it did.
I know we missed one last week because of the ice in Texas, but he will be back as soon as he is available. I know you're busy with tax season and everything coming, so but I'm gonna hold you to it. We'll get him back. I promise you. So we're not gonna stop. We're not gonna talk too much this time. So it's 7:01, and this is your show. Let's go.
Man,
hi, Darda.
I appreciate it. I hope the busyness of tax season isn't weighing on my face, so y'all forgive me. I'm gonna definitely try to bring the energy, but it's been a long day.
I'm sure.
We over halfway through the week, and better than last week for those of us who down here in Dallas. So I'm just grateful the sun's back out and I'm not freezing. So hope folks that their family members and their loved ones are doing all right after last week's winter storm. But super grateful to be back, even though we missed it. We never miss a beat. I'm Ray Pryor. I'm a chief tax officer at Priority Finance, and I run my own accounting firm and do a lot of things as it relates to taxes, accounting, and LLCs. And so tonight I'm going to share a little bit about a lot about taxes, and so we'll have a conversation about taxes. But I'm going to share what I would have shared last week instead of doing what I would have done this week, just because I think it'll be more pertinent and urgent for people if they want to pull the trigger on some of these opportunities that I'll be talking about since it's tax season already. So I just thought the topic I'll talk about tonight is a bit more timely. So I'm excited to dive into that. But before we do so, if you are a notary or a loan signing agent, and whether you're new to this industry or whether you've been in it for a while and then you want clarification or you want a head start on what taxes can look like for you, I created a free resource for notaries and loan signing agents to start thinking about what taxes looks like for you. So feel free to go to notarytaxtips.com/ebook and download it. It's completely free, and you'll be able to at least get a head start on some of the decisions that you'll have to make as it relates to filing your taxes. It's certainly not comprehensive. It's not everything, but it's the top 3 things and 3 things to get you started, at least. So I'm hoping that'll serve as a good resource for everybody. So tonight, we are going to talk about retirement. And, retirement isn't always the funnest topic to talk about. And obviously I do taxes for a living, so that's also never a topic that most people want to talk about throughout the day. But my hope is that if I show you some numbers and explain to you a bit about how you can use retirement accounts to benefit you from a tax perspective, that the next time you think about your 401k or your Social Security, or the next time that you meet with your financial advisor, you at least have a bit more background knowledge to come to that conversation, a bit more informed about what you exactly want, what the benefits you're going to get from some of these things, and how powerful these can be. So that's what we're going to talk about today is about individual retirement accounts, all of the different ways that entrepreneurs can use retirement accounts, because once we step out on our own, we don't have 401ks anymore. We don't have somebody else putting money away for our future or helping us decrease our tax bill for doing so. So you don't need to have a 401k to do any of those things. And so I'm going to talk about all the different ways that once you step to the entrepreneurship side, you can still be saving for your senior years. So I'll go ahead and dive in. Here's our agenda for tonight. I'll talk a little bit about just retirement planning 101 for folks who may not be super familiar, or maybe have just had a 401k but haven't spent a whole lot of time, may not know fully what is in it, what you can do with it. I'll give a brief overview of what planning for the long-term future can look like. And then number 2 is what most people know and have experienced, is what it looks like when you work for somebody else. And then we're going to spend most of our time on number 3. What are the options once you step out on your own and you don't work for anybody else? What can you be doing to save for retirement, and how can that also help you from a tax perspective, whether it's this year that you want to save on taxes or it's years down the line that you want to save on taxes? And so this is our roadmap, and I'll leave more than enough time at the end to ask any questions. It can be about our topic this evening. It could be about taxes overall. It could be about anything. So I'll leave more than enough time to answer questions at the end. So here is the wake-up call that is you're hustling and bustling and going to your job and clocking in and clocking out, or you're starting your business and then you're doing what you're doing in order to make money. The future is not set in stone and it's not guaranteed. And overall, the future of what retirement looks like for people who are not already in their senior years doesn't look very bright. A lot of things that past generations relied on in order to provide for them either will not be there transparently for us, or may not be there at all for us, if we don't play our cards right and do our due diligence on the front end. So I want to give a little bit of context on why this conversation we're having tonight is super important. The tagline is the only person who's responsible for your future is you. There is nobody else. Your company is not responsible. Obviously your family is going to take care of you, but your family is not ultimately responsible for your financial future if you're planning years in advance and you're going to, reach a senior age where you may not be able to work. Life happens all the time, and so we can never predict what will happen in the future, but we do know that unexpected things happen. So we shouldn't be surprised if and when they do. Here are the top 4 things that we need to know in the decades moving forward that don't look great as we try to provide for ourselves right now, provide for ourselves in the future, hopefully leave a little bit of a legacy for the folks who are coming after us. These are the 4 things that are going to kind of get in our way. Social Security as a program is very lopsided because we have a large baby boomer population that's older, that's taking their distributions, but not enough young people who are working to pay for them to have it. And so the Social Security overall may not exist in the same way that it does right now. So if you have grandparents, or if you yourself are taking out Social Security and you know that you've been paying into it your entire life, and that's what you've expected to at least partially rely on, that may not be the case for you. And in 2035, as the slide said, it's not very far off. That's not a super far off. It's not very long ways away. So that's the first thing, is that Social Security, just based on what the Social Security Administration says, they run on a budget just like any business, and they're not doing so well. So that's the one thing. The other thing is, if you're on this call and you're one of the people who are blessed enough to have a pension, maybe you work for the government, maybe you're a teacher, maybe you're a firefighter, maybe you work in law enforcement, or whatever the case may have you, you are among the very few of us left who get access to any type of pension whatsoever. Pensions are not very common amongst a lot of employers anymore. They're very expensive on the employer side, and obviously they're great for us as employees. But the same level of long-term loyalty that our folks who came before us did when they worked for Ford Motor Company for 40 years and then retired, that doesn't exist anymore. It just doesn't exist anymore. So you may not even have a pension to rely on when you reach your senior years. And then the last 2 are going to happen whether you have Social Security and your pension or not. Inflation will always chip away at your savings. And so that's always going to be the case, that whatever your dollar is worth today, you're not going to be able to buy the exact same things with that same dollar 10 years from now. Prices are always going to increase. That's just the nature of the economy and the world that we live in. And so we need to plan ahead for it. And then the 4th thing, which is really important, is medical costs. The cost of healthcare is already outrageous, and there are 0 signs of it slowing up or becoming more affordable on a significant grand scale for everybody anytime soon. And so if we know that all of these 4 things are coming, and we know that we're ultimately responsible, the thesis or the headline that you should take from this is, well, do I feel ready? Do I feel okay with what my 60-year-old self is going to be proud of, my 20, 30, 40, 50-year-old self? Are they going to be proud of the decisions I made now if I know that these 4 things are coming? And this is, it's on the back burner. It's not a pain that's really hurting folks right now, and it may not hurt your finances right now. But anybody who has older family members that they need to take care of, or anybody who has had family members who may be struggling, know that these 4 things, when ultimately it doesn't work out for you, it ultimately has an impact on the rest of your family, because who else is going to pick you up when you're not able to provide yourself as those who you love most? And so I'm going to talk a little bit about how entrepreneurs without a 401k, without a pension, can do their due diligence to not only be able to live a happy and fulfilling life in your senior years, you can also save taxes, a whole lot of taxes in the process of doing so, but also be able to provide a bit of a foundation and a legacy when you do pass on, which will happen to all of us, to provide a legacy for the folks who are coming up after you. and to know that throughout all of your working years, you were doing everything you needed to do to provide for you and your family in the present, but you were also thinking about your future kids and your grandkids at the same time. So here is a message that we hear all the time, but life gets in the way that we rarely do. Whenever we're talking about saving, it is always better to start sooner rather than later. The best day to start saving was yesterday. And so I'm going to show you an illustration that shows you how powerful time is. We're really not talking about money today. We're going to talk about taxes, and obviously we'll talk a little bit about money and wealth, but the most powerful asset and resource that we're talking about tonight is time. There is nothing more powerful than time as it relates to long-term savings. And so I want to show you this PDF made by these two guys out of Nashville. They run their own podcast and they're financial advisors. I want to show you this document about how powerful it is starting early and just saving a little bit and being diligent. So the question that they asked is, how much do you need to save every single month to be a millionaire at age 65? Pretty straightforward question. If you want to be a millionaire when you turn 65, what would you need to do in order to get there? And they make a certain assumptions about, and they have some of these listed down here that you're going to put, they're expecting a certain amount of return for a certain amount of years. And so obviously you want to give some caveats, but the numbers aside, just what this picture paints is pretty powerful if you're thinking about what your future is going to look like, okay? So let's say tomorrow that you have a child and that age is 0. We're looking up here in the top left. If you saved for them $12.89 a month and invested it, they would be a millionaire automatically at 65. $12.89. That's Netflix bill. If you're only one person, Netflix is increasing, right?
Well, it went up to $17 now.
So now we're at 17, right? We're talking about a fraction of Netflix to solidify your millionaire status at 0, right? $12, $13 every single month. Right. And so, you're thinking, well, I mean, $12 isn't a lot, right? But life gets complicated and things happen. I'm not talking about whether life gets complicated. I just want folks to see the math. That if you were to save $13 from the day you were born, if you have a child and you were thinking about them and their future, $13 a month would give them millionaire status when they turn 65. That's simple. Pretty straightforward. Let's zoom ahead here a little bit earlier. Let's go all the way to 25. Let's say 25 is, maybe folks are graduating from school, starting to progress in their careers. They're young adults. What would it take for them to be a millionaire in 40 years? $1 million seems like a lot. It seems like, sometimes it seems like $1 million is a million miles away. A 25-year-old, if they save $184 every single month and invest it, they're going to be a millionaire. And not like a kind of sort of millionaire where you have some nice stuff and you keep up with the Joneses, you have a nice car and you have a nice house or whatever. No, I'm talking about $1 million in an investment account. Like, you are a millionaire. You could do it. But you already noticed that $184 is very different than $13, right? The only difference that happened, we're still reaching the same destination. The only difference is time. Somebody started 25 years earlier. Now this graphic only goes to 35, and so
Dang it.
whether you're later on that spectrum or whether you have the benefit of time on your hands to be before it. But even at 35, if you save $600 a month, you would be a millionaire. I'm sure you have $600 bills. You probably spend $600 on something every single month. Maybe you're not able to save it. Maybe you are. But I don't know if people understand the gravity that if you were to save that every single month, you would be a millionaire in 30 years. Not, making ends meet, not figuring out how to run your business when you're trying to transition out and retire and pass it on to somebody else. If all you did was save, you didn't do anything else. None of this crazy investing, none of this GameStop trading, none of this cryptocurrency, none of the other stuff that you read about. If all you did was save it and invest it into a basic retirement account, you'd be a millionaire when you turn 65, when you retire. So I want to be a millionaire at 65. I think a lot of people want to be a millionaire a whole lot earlier than that. But this is the easiest path to it. One of the most popular books on this is The Millionaire Next Door, which some people may have heard of before. And this is basically what the book says, is that these millionaires are not these people who invent all of these crazy things and all these impressive products and launch all these businesses. Obviously, those people exist. But the vast majority of people who are millionaires, all they did was save. But the only way you can reach that millionaire status if you start sooner rather than later. So that's just a quick illustration I wanted to share with you that about the power of starting soon and then the power of just saving diligently. And then I'm going to add for the rest of the evening to talk about how that $1 million that you accrued over the course of your entire life, you may not need to pay any taxes on that whatsoever. So that's what I'm going to talk about, is how, you know, once you start making a whole lot more money and your assets and your net worth increase, we all know that more taxes come with that. But there are a bunch of different loopholes, legal loopholes, and opportunities that you can take in order to have that great nest egg, but still be able to save a whole lot. We're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars on taxes. I'll show you an illustration of that in a second. Okay, Ms. Head, good to see you.
I'm so glad I came in when you're talking about me being a millionaire.
I mean, I made this for you. This was just for you. This is the how do we catch up to Ms. Head's net worth. This is that workshop. This is what we're talking about. So so great to see you. Glad you could join us.
Thank you.
So we're not gonna spend a whole lot of time on this. Most people have worked a job at some point in their life, and most people at least know a little bit about what it looks like when you work for somebody else. You might have a pension if you're a part of certain, you know, industries. They still have pensions. A lot of people have 401k. If you work in the nonprofit or government sectors, or you may have a 401(b), or you may have a 403(b), excuse me, or you may have a 457(b). All of those essentially do the same thing. Is that you are paying a little bit, you know, you're saving a little bit now. Usually they take it out of your paycheck, and you get a tax deduction for those contributions. And then at some point in this nebulous future, when you're 65 and you're old and you want to take money out of your 401k, then you do that, right? So that's normally what it looks like when you work for somebody else. Most people don't even know what any of these four things are invested in. They couldn't tell you what their 401k is invested in because they probably have never looked at it. They know they have one, which is the important thing. You should definitely participate in that program if your employer offers it. But a vast majority of people have no idea what actually goes on in their 401k, have no idea whether it's growing. Some people may not, you know, once you reach a certain age, you may start checking the balance. But especially at the earlier years when a lot of this wealth multiplier can be powerful, most people don't know what's going on in their retirement account. So, and that's the case, but this is what it can look like for you if and when you work for somebody else. But there's a whole nother world on the other side of the tax code, on the business owner and investor side, that you can also take advantage of, and you don't need to work for anybody else to do it. And so these are the less common, less talked about avenues to save money on taxes and save for the future that I wanted to share with everybody tonight. And I'll share a reason why I'm sharing it, why this is very timely for you during tax season if you've not filed your taxes already. And so I'll get to that in a second. But this is the beef of what we're going to talk about tonight, is what can saving for your future look like when you work for yourself and you're not relying on anybody else, okay? Here are the top 6 options that I'm going to dive a bit into tonight. And so if you are taking notes and you're like, man, this is something I really want to get into, this could be a good slide to like take a little screenshot of, or just, you know, to snap a picture from your phone. Because these are the 6 things that you're going to spend the next day or the next week or so figuring out whether they fit for you. I'm going to walk through each of them. But here are the top 6 options that if you work for yourself and you're a business owner, if this is the vision that you have for yourself, that you want to work for yourself, but you're a little bit worried about, well, what happens when I don't have my 401k? What happens when I don't have a lot of the pension? What happens when I don't have anything else to fall back on? You have these. So I'm going to dive into some of these, okay? First one, one that maybe people have heard about, is a traditional IRA. And so what the traditional IRA does, it works very similarly to your 401k. Right now, when you contribute to your 401k up to the maximum contribution, you don't need to pay taxes on that money. So let's say I make, you know, if you're working as a teacher and you make $50,000 a year and you put $5,000 in your 401k, you don't pay taxes on that $5,000. So your taxable income is only at $45,000. Traditional IRA works the exact same way, except you don't need to have an employer to do it. You can set it up on your own. And so that's the tax benefit for traditional IRAs, is that you can get a tax deduction in the year that you make them the exact same way you're making your 401k. And so if you're used to having those, or if you're used to paying into a pension and you know that usually brings down your W-2 income a little bit, your traditional IRA will do the exact same thing for you. You don't need to work for anybody else to do it. Now, with all of these tax benefits I'm going to talk about, the IRS is not going to give you a handout of a bunch of thousands and thousands of dollars in tax savings, as always, without some rules and regulations. And so I'm definitely going to give you the breakdown of what you need to do in order to qualify for these things. But nonetheless, the tax savings are there. The traditional IRA, you can contribute up to $6K or $7,000 if you're closer to retirement age, if you're above 50 years old. Okay, so that's how much you could be putting away each year if you wanted to. How can you qualify for this program is that you have to make more than your contributions. And so some people, a lot of wealthy people, have Roth IRAs for their kids before they even start working, because they know what I just showed you earlier, that wealth multiplier about how easily you can reach millionaire status. And if you just give time and let compound interest do its thing, how your money could flip way more than you could ever do working for it. People start young, but in order for you to start, you need to have earned income. You need to have some sort of working. You need to be doing something at least to contribute that $6,000. You don't need to contribute a crazy amount, but you do need to be able to at least have that much. And then there are some qualifications on how much money you are allowed to make before you can qualify for this program. Most of these tax vehicles that I'm going to talk about this evening are all a perfect sweet spot for folks who are low income to middle income, right before you reach really making a whole lot of money, which is the moment that we all wish, we're all hoping to get to. All of these things I'm going to talk about are not things that are off in your future. As a matter of fact, if you look too far off in your future, you may not be able to take advantage of any of these. So there's a little bit about how you can qualify for the program. And here are some of the requirements, is that you have to let it do its thing. You can't, put money into this, take the tax deduction, and then say, okay, now I'm going to pull the $6K out and blow it on the trip to Vegas once COVID-19 wraps up, right? You can't do that, right? Well, to be fair, you can, but you're most likely going to pay a 10% penalty on early withdrawals. That's exactly the same thing as your 401k. Now, as in last year taught us, especially, is that there are exceptions to that. If you need your IRA money or if you need your 401k money, there are certain circumstances under which you won't need to pay that 10% penalty in order to access those funds. COVID-19 opened up a lot of that. And so a lot of people took money out of their 401k. A lot of people took loans from their 401k. And their taxes got a bit more complicating. But you can avoid this 10% penalty in certain situations. So I obviously I wouldn't recommend it, because then you kind of ruin the compound interest factor that's growing over time. Then you're kind of halting the snowball effect that you've already started. But if there was a worse day that you needed access to the funds, you could access it. But traditional IRA, in most simple terms, is a version of a 401k. It functions very, very differently than what you probably already have. This is its kind of opposite twin, is the Roth IRA. And this is the one that I think is the most powerful, especially for folks who are starting businesses and growing in their careers and plan and have a lot more high earning income potential. The Roth IRA is really how you get yourself on the fast track to millionaire status in your senior years. So normally, when you have a 401k, you put money in it and you get a little tax deduction on whatever you put in it. But then when you take the money out when you're 65, you have to pay taxes on that, just because that's your regular income. But with a Roth IRA, you take the earned income and you pay taxes on it regularly. You file your taxes on that money now, but you never have to pay taxes on that ever again. You never have to pay on it ever again. So if I put $6,000 into a Roth IRA today, I don't have to ever pay taxes on however big that 6,000 would grow ever into the future, ever again. And so I have a little calculator button up here. I'm going to show you the power of what a Roth IRA could look like, because most people don't really understand how much they would have paid in taxes if they didn't invest through a Roth IRA. But I'm going to show you a bit about what that can look like. A lot of the qualifications are the exact same, but a Roth IRA is the opposite side of a traditional IRA, where you can make a whole lot of money and save a whole lot on taxes. And I'll give you a bit of an illustration here on this calculator, okay? This is bankrate.com. If you're ever looking for good calculators to use on interest rates, retirement accounts, mortgage, or anything, I recommend Bankrate, because I think it's a great website. So if you're ever looking for anything, I highly recommend you do so. Okay, So I hope everybody can see my screen here. Is everybody able to see the bank rate screen?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Good. So let's start. Let's say I'm starting from scratch. I'm looking at the starting balance here. Let's say I'm starting from scratch, and the maximum contribution for a Roth IRA is the same as a traditional IRA. So I can put in $6,000 every single year. And let's say I'm 30, and my retirement age is 65. And we'll put a modest rate of return. The stock market obviously is all over the place all the time, but on average, we can kind of rely on something in the 10% 10% range. Okay. And I'll leave the tax rate where it is because it's not super big for the sake of our illustration. It's not super huge. Okay. So you might have already peaked up here that we're already way past millionaire status automatically. And then we already talked about that. We already saw that if you just save diligently, you can become a millionaire pretty quickly. But what I want to show you is what it would have been like for you if you would have invested in any other type of account. If you would have just invested on an E-Trade investment account, if you would have invested in a traditional IRA, if you would have invested in your 401k, how much more you would have paid in taxes that the Roth IRA folks don't have to. We're talking about a difference here. $700,000. About $700,000 difference. All you're doing is putting in $6,000 a year, and you could save by the time you reach 65, $700,000 in taxes. Because once you put the money in, you never have to pay taxes on it, and it will flip over and over and over again in your investment account and keep on growing in whatever you choose to invest your Roth IRA in. And then you take the money out and you still don't have to pay any taxes on it. Normally, when you invest, you have to pay a little bit of taxes maybe every year if you have dividends that are realized or something like that. You get a 1099 DIV, 1099 INT, whatever the case may be. And then normally, a lot of people are used to having to pay taxes when you pull the money out, when you actually start using it. Roth IRA, you don't have to do any of that. Once you take earned income, $6,000 of earned income it's already part of your taxable income in your W-2, and you put it into a Roth IRA and you let it do its thing, we're talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars in tax savings. And if you wait till 65 to consider a Roth IRA, or you wait till 65 to start thinking about taxes, you're not even really going to know what you're missing out on. Now, ain't nobody going to be mad at $961,000. You're going to be like, oh yeah, I'm basically a millionaire, right? We basically hit millionaire status. That's great. You know, I'm living a nice life. I worked hard my entire career. Now I get to sit back and relax a bit, right? Little do you know, the millionaire who's sitting next door to you did the exact same thing, saved the exact same amount of money, but has almost twice as much in their nest egg as you do. And all of it went to taxes. That's it. All of it went to taxes. And so unless you know this in advance, you're going to keep doing your thing and keep chugging along and putting in your savings account that you get absolutely nothing on interest on every single month. Or you're going to start investing it in certain risky things that maybe you know a little bit about, maybe you don't, and maybe you do your 401k. You're going to chug along. You're going to think you're doing the right thing. But I'm telling you, there's somebody who got a Roth IRA when they were younger, and they're like, man, you have no idea how much you're missing out on. You could have almost twice as much as you have right now if all you did was change the type of account that you had it in. So if there's any of all of these 6 programs, all these different 6 platforms I'm going to talk about this evening, Roth IRA is my personal favorite. It is the best because you can put away $6,000, which isn't completely breaking the bank, but it is a sizable amount that will continue to grow and compound over time. But the tax savings are ridiculous. You pay taxes on whatever money as you earn it, and that's the same taxes you would have already paid. And then you let that money flip and invest and work way harder than you could ever do on your job. And then you have twice as much as somebody who wasn't smart enough to know about it, who wasn't smart enough to do something about it, if they did know about it. So this is Roth IRA. I am trying to do everything in my power to show you through the power of numbers that these tax savings don't happen if you don't start early. Obviously, let's say that we started when we were 60 even. Let's see what the tax savings would be, right? So you would even say $3,000 if you were just doing this for 5 years. And that's it. So if you would like to have an additional $3,000, or if you call me, your tax professional, and you say, hey, how can I get $3,000 in tax savings? I can't do this on your tax return. What I can tell you is you should have invested in a Roth IRA. That's the easiest way to do it. I can only do so much with credits and deductions. I can't make stuff up just so you get money back. But even if we're really close to retirement age and we start doing this, we can still save a little bit. If we go back to 50, right, we're looking at maybe about $50,000 in tax savings there. Right, if we go back to 40, right? We're talking about almost $200,000. And 30 we did already, right? Imagine if you just graduated high school and you knew this. That's $3 million that you would have paid in taxes. Okay, so I'll pause there. I get on my soapbox a lot about Roth IRAs. I'm a big fan of them. We'll keep it pushing because we got 4 more to get to. But that's the power of the Roth IRA, and why of all 6 of these, it's my personal favorite. Okay.
Mr. Pryor.
Yes, ma'am.
You're gonna send this out, right?
For sure. Yeah.
But more so than this, we're gonna post the video, right, Mika?
Yes.
Will you let Jordan watch this video?
Will I let him watch it? Yes.
Will you encourage him to watch it?
Yes.
Would make him watch it? That's the question that we're asking. No, I mean it's powerful. Like, obviously some of us are closer to that retirement age than others, and then once you see the power of time and how easy it is to turn, $6,000 a year, it's $500 a month, right? That's less than most people's rent. That's less, it's a car, whatever you want to call 500. You can already see how easy millionaire status, if not more than that, can be achieved. But then you start looking at, if you're really young, and we're talking about $13, we're talking less than a Netflix bill to solidify millionaire status for your kids. Why would you not do that? Most people can find $13 a month, most people, but not a lot of people know about this so early on in order to take advantage of it. So I'm glad that Miss Head's ears are perked and thinking about her grandkids and how they can take advantage of this. Okay, let's talk SEP IRA. Okay. SEP IRAs are very, very similar to traditional IRAs in that when you put money into it, you can take a tax deduction. But a lot of these other 4 that I'm going to talk about, you can put a lot more money into it. So for your 401k, maximum, I think the last year was $19,500. So if you were really maxing out your 401k, you could put at maximum, regardless of how much you made, you can put $19,500 in there. With some of these other retirement accounts, when you work for yourself, you can put a whole lot more. So, up here, you can put up to $58,000 before you're 50, and then it bumps up a little bit once you get closer to your retirement age. And
so SEP is self-employed, employed. What's that? What's the plan? Self-employment plan?
It's pension. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Well, it's your own pension. Yeah, that's essentially.
Gotcha.
Yeah, or a self-employment plan. There's a lot of different words for it, but yeah, that's what the P stands for.
And you can do up to.
Go ahead.
Okay, you can do up to. Like in my case, I could do $64,000 a year.
You could.
Okay.
So whatever you.
Well, not that I got $64,000, but just.
Well, hypothetically, when you do, we'll speak it into this. When you do have it to put away, if that's what you want to do. Or whatever amount up to that point it could be, even if it's 10, even if it's 20, even if it's 30, whatever it could be, it doesn't really matter. You just know that this has a lot of capacity to save you a whole lot on taxes. And so if your business is grossing, let's say your net profit is $100,000 to make it easy, you could put $58,000 into SEP IRA every single year, and then you only pay taxes on the 42 that's left. So, you made $100,000 in profit, and then, depending on what your long-term future savings goals are, you put 58 towards your future. Obviously, this is if you're maxing it out, but you could put any amount before that. And then that brings down your taxable income immediately, just how your 401k does it. And so, if you're looking to decrease your tax bill today, things like traditional IRA and the SEP IRA are for you. If you're looking to decrease your tax bill tomorrow, and you can decrease it a whole lot more tomorrow with the Roth IRA that I talked about than you can in the present day, then that's when a Roth can be beneficial for you. And I'll talk a little bit about which one might be the right fit for you. I'll share a bit about that in the end. But how can you qualify for this program? You got to work for yourself. This is not something you get if you're an employee. You got to be self-employed. And if you do have a staff, it's got to be pretty small. And then there are a few rules about why the staff has to be small or why it should be small as it relates to SEP IRAs, is that if you choose to contribute 50% of your income towards your SEP IRA, if you have W-2 employees, you have to contribute the exact same percentage for them too. And so you want to be a bit smart here about, well, yeah, I would say, maybe if you have somebody else who works and can provide and keep the lights on, and your income is towards your future, why not just save 100% of your money? Well, if you start hiring other folks, that means you're going to be putting quite a bit of their own paychecks as an employer into their SEP IRA, as well. So this gets a bit complicated once you have employees. But this is a very similar model to the 401k and the IRA, but it has a lot higher ceiling that you can reach in terms of the amount of money that you can put into it.
Now that's only if you have W-2 employees, not 1099 employees, right?
Right. Well, 1099, it's well, not extremely unlikely. You won't necessarily have benefits with the jobs that you have for them. So that's primarily why. And retirement benefits, at least. Maybe you do something from a healthcare perspective. You could do that. But
no, I want to keep giving them a 1099 and that's it.
Well, right. So there are benefits, but in order to recruit and retain, some of the top talent, if you want somebody to really take over your business, there's a reason why companies offer benefits. But you're right. A lot when we're in this earlier stages, hiring people gets a lot more expensive than just their paycheck. When you think about healthcare benefits, when you think about retirement, when you think about paying the other half of their Social Security taxes, it's not something to just do just because, I just want to have employees just for the sake of having employees. You'll want to run the cost benefit analysis. But this is perfect for folks who either if you're the only employee that you have, or if you've only got a few people, or maybe if it's family members or whatever the case may be. This is a good option for you. And I put a little note at the bottom here that's a lot easier to maintain, and there's less administrative burden. With any of these, you're going to have your paperwork in check. You can't be taking advantage of $58,000 in tax savings and then just be like, oh, let me just, it slipped from my SEP IRA into my personal bank account that I used to go on a vacation with my family. I don't know what happened. You can't do that, right? You're going to need to do your due diligence and make sure it's good. But among all of these options, this is among the easier to set up, among the easier to maintain. So that's why I included it first.
So you showed us the growth on the other IRA, but you did. So can you show me an example of this one, the growth potential for a self-employed?
Yeah, well, the reason why I didn't share it with this is because from a tax perspective, this is going to look the exact same thing as a 401k or an IRA. So what you're going to do is you're going to get a tax deduction in the year that you make the contribution. Like this year, you do minus 58,000 off the top. And then as it grows, you don't need to pay taxes every single year, but you're going to pay regular income tax when you pull it out, just like how you do with a 401k, just how you do with an IRA. So the growth potential is the exact same as before. That you can imagine if you save $58,000 one year, let alone for several years, you're going to be in a pretty good spot, especially if that's 58,000 is invested in flipping.
Can you bring that bank rate thing up? And I want you to do something. I want you to, because we're all basically self-employed, but not everybody is old like me. But I just want to see something.
Yeah, I'm going to pull up the 401k calculator because this is what it looks like from a tax perspective more than because this is not a Roth plan. So this is a more traditional plan.
Okay. So I want you to put in 20,000.
Okay, gotcha.
For the annual.
Let's see here. No, we won't do any of this. So you want to put in, okay, so I'll put 200,000 just for the sake of it.
No, I said 20,000.
Were you putting in 20,000 or you?
I'm putting in 20,000.
Right. So your annual salary will be this, and then you're contributing 10%, and that's 20.
No.
I'm just manipulating the calculator. Yeah.
Okay.
And then this is 0, this is 0. And then when do you want to start, Ms. Ed?
I want to start today. I'm 69.
When do you want to retire?
Tomorrow.
Yesterday?
Let's put 72.
72?
Let's put 72.
Okay. And I'll bump it up to 10 just because that's a bit more realistic in terms of your return. Oh, what am I missing? Oh. We don't need to do any of that. Okay. So if we were looking at a 10% return for that, just that 3 years, and we put in 20,000, oh, we don't need the employer match. So some of these we want to, oh, without the employer match. Okay. So that's what we're looking for. So look at the light blue. Well, they're the same because I put it at 0. Your balance at the end, you can flip a few times. So, you know, and then we can adjust this. Let's say we, you know, I'll tweak the numbers a bit. Let's say we make 100 and then we only contribute, let's say 10%. Let's see what happens. So we put in 10K every single year. And what would have been 30 is 34. You know, so, and then we can tweak with this even more. Let's say you get really aggressive and you're putting in 25. So that's $25,000 every single year. After 3 years, you would have put in 75, and then you make about $8,000 for doing nothing. Okay. And you get the tax deduction in the beginning. So people do this all the time when they invest, right? You put money in, you expect to get a certain rate of return. So you hear about this going all the time. This is what the stock market is. But these programs allow you to get either a tax deduction on the front end or a tax deduction on the back end. You can choose which one is beneficial for you. But it's the exact same investing. So was this a bit helpful, Ms. Ed, to just kind of see the numbers and see what it looks like?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, okay. Good. I'll leave that calculator there in case we come back to it.
Now I just got to go make that much money.
Right. That's the only thing that's left. At least now you know what to do with it, right? There are a lot of people who make a whole lot of money and then pretty soon end up back right where they started because they just never learned. Nobody taught them about what to do with it. So here you have a few different options.
Actually, I can attest to that, and to the young people. I used to make a whole lot of money, and I saved a whole lot of money for about 12 years. Anytime I got a raise, I never took that raise home. I always put it in my 401k or whatever, always. My paycheck stayed the same. My husband, it might be why he's an ex-husband now, couldn't figure out why my paychecks never got any bigger. Well, my paychecks didn't get any bigger because I was saving my money. And when I left that company, I had over $500,000. And that was 28 years ago. Well, just imagine, I would be that millionaire you're talking about if I hadn't touched my money. It took me 15 years to save that money. That money was gone in less than 5 years.
That's it.
And I owed a whole lot of money to the IRS. So we can save it, but probably more importantly, don't take it, don't spend it. But I thought, I can make money. I'm going to make some more. And I did make some more. But by then, oh well. You know, it took me, I couldn't recoup. I could not recoup.
And that's the world that we live in now, especially with people, especially coming out of a pandemic. People are switching jobs. People are doing a bunch of different things to make ends meet. And it seems like there's no other option in the world except to just work until you die, basically.
Yeah.
But everybody reaches a point where either that's not possible or you just don't want that. You really just don't. Like, that's not what you want for your life. And these tools are powerful because if you do start and you're diligent and you keep at it over years, you get to choose how you want to spend your glorious year. You know, so I appreciate you sharing your personal anecdote because it's not as simple as these numbers do. Life gets real, things happen, you know, and then that we want to have a plan, you know, backup plans in order to buffer some of these. But
we make poor. Bottom line is, when we make poor financial choices early on, it bites us in retirement.
It does, and the exact opposite is true. When you make wise little financial decisions when you're young, it'll make retirement a blast. So it's really those little decisions, those little basic things about how to save that make the whole difference. So yeah, Ms. Ed, I appreciate you sharing that. I'll talk a little bit about simple IRA. It's a bit similar, but it's for a different type of business owner than the SEP IRA. Okay, you can contribute a little bit less, which you can see on the screen, and it's for a lot bigger businesses. And so then there are some requirements about how much you need as the business to put into the retirement accounts of the people that you work for you. But from a tax perspective, it works the exact same way as a 401k or a traditional IRA does, is that you get the tax deduction in the year that you do it. In the year that you put money into it, you don't have to pay any taxes on that money whatsoever. And then you let it grow tax-free. So every single year you don't need to pay taxes as your nest egg grows. And then when you take it out in retirement, you pay your regular income tax, just like you do on a 401k, on a pension, or anything like that. So this is a simple IRA. Like I said, a lot of these slides are not, they're not fully in depth, because there's no way we could dive into 6 different financial planning vehicles enough. But my hope is that somebody is at least seeing a little bit on the slides and is finding, oh, well, maybe I need to follow up on this type of plan, or maybe I need to ask my financial advisor whether this would be a good fit for me. So this should at least give you enough to get the conversation started. Okay. There's also something called a solo 401k, which is where you basically have a 401k just like you would at your job. But it's you, and it's just you, right? There's nobody else involved. It's just you primarily doing your 401k. And so you may notice that a lot of these plans are starting to sound very different. Sound very similar. They sound like they have pretty much the same tax benefits. The numbers that you can contribute seem to fluctuate a bit, but for the most part, they sound similar. The big difference across all of these in terms of figuring out which one is a good fit for you are a lot of the requirements and a lot of the paperwork that's involved. Starting a solo 401k requires a bit more grunt work, and with the provider that's going to host your 401k, your solo 401k, then starting a traditional IRA, which you could do on the exact same apps right now that you use on E-Trade, Fidelity, Charles Schwab. You could open up a traditional IRA right now without any issues. Some of these, when you're doing it through a business that requires a bit more regulation, just takes more paperwork, takes more time. But the solo 401k works very similarly to a lot of these. Is that you take a tax deduction in the year that you put money in, it grows, and then you pay regular income tax once you take it out, but you don't need to pay any taxes on that until you take the money out. Okay.
What's the benefit if you were looking at the SEP, the SEP, and the solo? So
yeah.
Which one? Since the amount that you can invest each year is the same for both of those.
Right.
I don't see any differences between those two. Is there a difference?
There is.
Why would you choose one over the other?
Right. The main way that you want to do it is whenever you get in touch with somebody who can help you set one up, is the maintenance for these plans differs in terms of cost and complexity. The more complex, or for instance, the more employees that you have on a simple IRA, the more money it costs you in your business, and the more it takes for you to maintain this vehicle.
Gotcha.
So that's the big difference. From a tax perspective, we're kind of talking about, it's kind of hard to compare them. It's hard to see the difference.
Cost of maintenance
is in the maintenance and the execution. Yeah, certain ones of these are a lot easier to set up, a lot more streamlined and straightforward than some of the others. And so that, depending on what your capacity is, you could find a good fit for you. Okay. This is the one that's taking social media by storm, even though all of the other ones are very boring. They're not sexy at all. You put money away and then you save taxes on it, and then you have a great nest egg and you're a millionaire. But the millionaire next door that doesn't have all the flashy stuff. But self-directed IRA is getting a whole lot of attention because this is where you can get a bit more fun in terms of how you invest in your IRA. We'll talk taxes first. It's still the same as most of them that we've been talking about. Tax deduction, deferred growth, you pay taxes when you take it out. But the significant difference here is what you can invest it in. You can invest it in a whole lot of things if you wanted to. You could invest it in real estate. If you're a savvy real estate investor, you could invest, your real estate investment could be part of your retirement plan. You can invest in a business, you can invest in stocks, you can invest in, all of the traditional security products that we always buy or that we invest in. But the main one that's taking the world by storm is that people have realized you can use this for real estate. That if you wanted to use a self-directed IRA to not only start your real estate investing, but also get tax savings for being an IRA as well as tax savings for being a real estate investor, it seems like the best of both worlds for people when they hear about this. And so a self-directed IRA is one that I highly encourage you to, do some Googling, watch some videos to dive deeper into this if this is something that appeals to you. This is for people who are a lot more experienced and for people who want to be extremely hands-on in the process. I like the idea of a Roth IRA that I start when my child is born, and I put $13 in it every single month, and I don't have to work hard for it to become a millionaire. I just put it in an index fund or an ETF. It does what it's supposed to do for 65 years, and I wake up one day and it's $1 million in there. That's what I like. I like passive investments. But if you want to be in the driver's seat of your retirement plan, a self-directed IRA may be a good fit for you. Obviously, there's going to be nobody else to blame if the deals that you choose go wrong. You chose that property. You chose the property in that neighborhood. You chose that mortgage. You chose those tenants to move into your rental property. So there's a lot more responsibility that you have to take. But for folks who know what they're doing and want this kind of challenge, self-directed IRA affords you a whole lot more flexibility in terms of what you can actually invest it in, rather than putting it into the traditional things that most people do for long term. So especially if you're deep into real estate, you'll probably hear about this somewhere along your journey. There are people using self-directed IRAs to fund real estate or fund business ventures or whatever may have you. So this is another way from a tax perspective. It looks the same as a lot of these other vehicles that we talked about. Okay. And I wanted to highlight too, with the self-directed IRA and the solo 401k, there are Roth options for both of these. So the difference between traditional and Roth, just to reiterate it, is Roth is that you pay taxes on it now and you never have to pay taxes again. You can set up a Roth solo 401k. You can set up a Roth self-directed IRA. And so that's those could be options for you if you want those ridiculous tax savings and the millions of dollars that we talked about earlier. Some of these other retirement options, these last two could be a good fit for you as it relates to that. Okay. Oh, I didn't even put that on here, is that there are a lot stricter compliance requirements for a self-directed IRA, and it's harder to find a broker who's going to do them. You can't just Google it and go to your usual suspects and think that you can just, call them and, I want to open up a self-directed IRA. It's going to take some digging. It's going to take some intentionality. But this is only for people who are willing to put in the work to do that. So like I said, this is not the path necessarily I personally take, just because I like the idea of more passive investing to where it just does what it's supposed to do without me having to spend a whole lot of time on it. But if this is for you, this is for you. So I encourage you to take a look there. Okay. Here's a bit of a recap. These are the 6 that we talked about so far, and the main thing I want to remind you is that you probably are already doing some form of investing, whether it's through your 401k or whether you mess around on your Cash App or whether you watched whether you've been watching the market since COVID-19 or you watched the GameStop ridiculousness that happened a couple weeks ago. You're probably already involved in some capacity. But if you want to invest for the long term, which is by far what financial advisors, 99% of them recommend that you do, and you want to be a millionaire in your senior years, these could be some amazing vehicles that you can use in order to get there and save thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars, depending on when you start, on taxes. That you may be cool with $1 million nest egg, but 3 million would have been a little bit better, and that all of that is attributed to taxes and whether you get into one of these platforms sooner. So I think, I just have a little bit left, is just some general advice on different things that people invest in for the long term. All that stuff that you see online about the trading and everything that you watch in the market and all the ups and dips and downs and all those different things. If you're in one of these things for the long term, you don't have to worry about any of that. If you look on your stock market app and you look at a stock for one day, or you look at the S&P 500 for one day, you may see it go up and down like this, or you may see it go negative in the red, right? It may look really bad. But if you're on your phone and you switch from that one day function to all on the stock app, and you see what that graph looks like, it's literally nothing but starting right here and going way up here, right? We're talking over decades. There's no question on whether it's going to go up really, really significantly. That's how we're able to compound all of this. And that's how somebody's able to start with $13 a month when they're born and have $1 million at 65, not doing anything creative, the same $13 every single month. So if you're thinking, well, I hear about all these crazy, stock options and margin trading and all these other things, but I just really want to be able to live okay when I'm in my senior years. Check out index funds, check out mutual funds. Target date funds are cool because they adjust your risk tolerance based on how old you are. You have a lot more risk. You have a lot more capacity to be risky when you're young than you may do when you're 64 and you're about to retire at 65. You probably don't want to put that in GameStop stock when next year you're going to need that nest egg because you're not going to be working anymore. Target date funds kind of adjust it automatically as you go. And ETFs are another way to kind of bundle a bunch of stocks together and diversify your risk. So whenever you're thinking about how do you invest for the long term, what are some vehicles to look for? These are the top four things that you can look at. Okay, that's all I got. I'll pause there and ask any field any questions if anybody has any. Like I said, I focus on taxes and accounting, and so that's my specialty. I'm not a financial advisor, so I can't open any of these accounts for you, but I can talk to you about the tax benefits of doing so and how powerful they can be, not just for this year, but for years to come. So thank y'all again for the last, not the last of this month, but certainly not the last, I'm hoping, of an opportunity to come on here and share. A lot of the stuff that I try to share is not stuff that's very entertaining, not very exciting. We're not talking about crazy stocks, but it's needed. That's exactly it. Is that this is what the boring millionaire next door that looks like he doesn't do anything for a living does to live lavish and get to pass on something to his family and build a legacy. So my hope is that something was of value for somebody tonight. Yeah, I'll pause there. Oh, I see some folks in the chat. Let me get to these. Okay. Folks who are sending me chats, I'm going to respond to some of the questions out loud, and then if I need to send you a direct message, I'm going to do that too. So just bear with me here. I have a question. What advice would you give for the 401k account? Leave it or redeem it? So obviously the answer the answer to most questions is, well, it depends, right? It depends whether you want to, how old you are, what your financial plan is, and what you want to do. Overall, taking a 401k out early, you have to pay a significant penalty on it. You got to pay 10% automatically in addition to the taxes that you owe on it. So I never recommend taking it out early unless you meet one of those exceptions. And even then, if you can find the money elsewhere, I don't think you should steal from your future self to pay for your present self, because that defeats the whole purpose of saving in the first place. You should have just not saved it and done something with it. So like I said, I don't know enough about everyone's personal situation to tell you exactly what to do. That's not my job. I'm not a financial advisor, but my recommendation is to always leave it. Find other access to other money. And if you do need it for something, there are some exceptions, like buying a home or funding your kids' education. You can do some things with it if you really, really need it. But all of that crazy wealth multiplier that we talked about doesn't happen if you take it out. The moment that you take it out, you stop the snowball effect that you started. And if you do want to start rebuilding that momentum, you're starting from scratch. Right. You may have started at 20 and you're going up to 65, but if you pull it out at 45, you don't have much time to make up for the gap, right? That money that would have been flipping the entire time, you stopped it. So generally, I say that if you put something towards your future, that you stick to your commitment and stay the course if you can. Obviously, if things get tough and you need to, there are ways to get access to your money because it is yours. But I think it's best to leave it in there and let it stay. Miss Seabrook, so good to see you. I didn't even see that you popped in on here. Aisha, great to see you, man. I appreciate you joining us.
Hey, how are you?
What did you say?
I said, hey, how are you?
I'm good.
Good.
We got a question. Someone who's unemployed but came into 10K. What would you suggest? Thank you so much for the info. Oh, thank you. Okay. So if you came into $10,000, well, there are a lot of things you could do with it. I'll kind of walk you through Financial Advisor 101 in terms of what they say to do with your money, and then you can kind of figure it out. I probably won't tell you anything that's super duper interesting that would make a viral Instagram video, but I'll tell you what you can do. I'll tell you what you want to do if you want to build financial security for you and your family. First is emergency savings, 3 to 6 months worth of expenses. That's always a good place to start. If you don't have that, if something awful were to happen today and your entire life would be ruined, That's where your 10K needs to go. It's just sitting there whenever you need it. Next, you could think about opening up a Roth IRA, and so you need to be working in order to do so. So if somebody is still unemployed, you need to have earned income in order to put it into a Roth IRA that will then grow. And so they're not just going to let you open it up, inherit $10,000, and then get all these tax savings. You got to work a little bit for it and pay taxes on it at the beginning. Retirement options is a good place to look. And then if we're talking about investing, where could you invest $10,000? A lot of people talk about cryptocurrency and in certain stocks that they think are going to go up, and in margin trading and a lot of these other things. I'm a very boring investor. I keep it very, very simple, and I do all of these 4 things right here: index funds, mutual funds, ETFs, and target date funds. That's all I do. These are all things that are nearly bulletproof in terms of growing over the course of the long term. But if you invested in something early or something risky, there's a likelihood that your blood pressure could be through the roof if the stock market takes a tank that nobody's anticipating. So that's my general recommendation, is that you think about your future, that you think about emergencies, making sure that's taken care of, and then you start thinking long term, where you can grow a lot more and you can also save a lot more in taxes too. Oh, thank you to everybody for coming tonight. I appreciate it. I'm glad that this was helpful for you. On the 1 5.
Well, I just want to say hello, everybody. Aisha, did you send me a message about doing a video on something, and I responded back to you to tell you I thought you should do it? Let me see your pretty face. Turn the camera on.
You gonna do people like that?
Was that you?
I don't think so.
Oh, okay. It was another person named Aisha, because I said, Aisha, is this you? And then I didn't hear anything more from that person. But I said, she telling me to do a video, you do a video.
So you don't even know who you were talking to.
I don't know who I was talking to. I thought it was my Aisha. I said, is this Aisha Seabrook? But I never got a response from that person.
Oh, okay.
But whatever it was she asked me to do, I wrote it on the board to do it. I don't remember what it was now. But yeah. So I'm happy to see all of you guys on here tonight, learning what to do with your money and not make the same mistakes I made in my younger years.
Based on your story, it sounds like you made some. I mean, maybe the road was bumpy. It sounds like you were doing some great things.
I mean,
yeah, I made a lot of money back in the day. I made a lot of money a few years ago too, about 10 years ago.
Well,
but if you make it and you spend it, you haven't, I didn't do myself any favors.
Well, I still think that you have a lot of wisdom that most people will overlook, is that you had it, spent it, but now you know how to get it again. And most people don't know that that's on the horizon, so that the next time you do it, you'll do it right, and you'll do it for good. So
yeah,
life doesn't go like a graph. It does this. But as long as we're kind of going up, can't complain. That's all you can.
Yeah. Well, who knows? I might still have my husband if I hadn't been saving all my money, right? That's okay. That bastard can go.
Oh, no, ma'am. We are recording.
I didn't even hear what you said, so I don't think anybody else.
Oh, well, okay.
He's dead to me. No, just kidding. Okay. Well, thank you, Mr. Ray, so much. As always.
No problem.
You give us such great information all the time.
Yes, absolutely.
And I have to make an appointment with you, yes, for several things. And one of the things that we talked about tonight, I'll talk to you about that as well.
Okay. Sounds good.
Okay.
All right. Thank y'all so much again. If you have any questions or need any help, let me. My website is on the screen, but I'll also put my contact information in here as well. So if you need to reach me, whether it's taxes, accounting, LLCs, whatever the case may be, you'll know how to reach me. All right. Mr. Tamika, when's the next course?
The next one we have is March 3rd, and that's Infinite Financing again. He's coming back for part 2.
Oh.
Is that what you asked me?
I think he was asking about our classes.
Oh,
you usually conclude with
Saturday. It's workshop 1 will be this Saturday. We had to reschedule it because of the storm, and I lost power. Miss Ma'am over there never lost power. Yeah. You lost power too?
You got lucky.
Yeah. So my MacGyver skills kicked in big time. We was over here doing some things, okay? But we made it through.
Some notes. Yeah, I saw something with guacamole or something like that. I saw you were being inundated. I thought that was cool.
That's right. And guess what? Those eggs that my chickens give me, they came in handy too.
There it is.
Yep. So our next class is Saturday. We're making up for what we missed last week. And then after that, of course, it just continues every Saturday. So if anyone is interested in joining the class, there's still time. Just register online. And also March is full. But if you have a business or you know someone that does have a business, please send them our way. Like I said, March is full, but April is open. This is a platform for all small businesses. We want to share the wealth. That's how we do it. You know, having our community come on and we support each other. So, all right.
Thank you, Tamika. You did such a fine job.
Well, thank you so much. So if there's nothing else, we're going to say goodbye.
All right, y'all.
All right. Thank you so much for coming.
Right. Thank you.
Bumby.
Bye, everybody.
Bumby, send me an email. Send me an email if you want to be in April. Bumby, she just sent me a message. So send me an email.
Bumby is out there tearing it up.
Yes. What she how many did she have? 70 something for 1 month?
73 for January. She probably got 100. Bumby, turn that camera on so I can see your face.
No, you don't want to see me.
she needs to be investing her money, huh? She making money like that.
You don't want to see me, so don't want. No, February was slow, but again, March starts on Monday, so let's do it. Let's do it.
Let's do it.
All right.
Go make that money. What do you say, Mika? Go make your money. Don't let your money make you. Did I say it right?
Only my mother doesn't know where that's coming from, so now I'm embarrassed.
Where does it come from?
Diamond from Players Club.
It came from where?
Mother, we'll talk later.
Oh yeah, we're recording.
That was just for me and you.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. I didn't know. So everybody on here know what that means except me. Please, somebody don't know.
Yeah.
I was trying to help you. I was trying to fade into the background. I didn't want,
it's still relevant, but you didn't have to put me out there like that. That I'm quoting, Players Club to my mother.
And your mother. Okay, I'm 69 years old. No, I didn't know what it meant. I can blame my age on a whole lot of stuff.
And on that note, we're gonna say good night.
All right, y'all. Have a good night.
Bye, y'all.
Thanks for watching. Remember to like, share, comment, and subscribe.